yes, I'm a professional now, but it's not paying my bills in any way. So I've got to make sure my family is my number one priority too.
Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today, we are speaking with a lifelong athlete from Minnesota who was a D1 athlete in high jumping. And with years of autoimmune issues and becoming a mom, fitness took a back seat. But in 2018, a fellow photographer she knew started their bodybuilding journey, which sparked a flame in her to dive headfirst into it for herself in 2019. And of course, that came with a few different seasons we'll get into, but during her season of national shows, she missed a pro card by one spot 3 different times before earning her pro card with a broken foot, which led to a lot of media and attention that created feelings maybe she wasn't prepared for post-show. So I'm excited to get to know this woman and get to know her alongside of you guys. So welcome to the show, Rachel Farganis. How are you doing?
I am doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm happy you're here
Oh,
and
I'm so happy to be here.
oh, it's wonderful and I'm appreciative of you taking the time to come on. I know you've done a few interviews lately regarding your pro card win and yeah. You're like, "Yes, I have." So, I'm excited to learn more about you and I'd love to start off by asking if there's anything you do or think about right before your heel hits the stage.
It's funny because obviously I have listened to your podcast for years and years now. So
Oh.
I've thought, like, what would my answer be to this question? And as sad as it is, it's nothing. I literally stand on the stairs, as everyone can probably like recount, just like
Mhm.
standing on the stairs, looking at the stage, and I just allow my brain to like just clear itself out. I just completely shut the brain off, take a deep breath, let it out, and then go out on the stage. And somehow, I don't know if that's the process of turning on whatever persona I have on stage, and shutting off the normal me. But it somehow works. I don't get nervous the second I step on the stage. There's no nerves. I'm not shaking. I'm not
Wow.
trembling. It just somehow that deep breath and shutting it off and stepping out.
Hmm.
It's kind of, it is. It's like flipping a switch to the person that I am on stage, which is not at all who I am off stage. I don't have that sass. I don't have any of that. It doesn't exist. Even my posing coach can account. Like, I don't smile like that off
Mhm.
stage. So it's a whole persona, and it is just a deep breath and then go and clear my head. And there's nothing floating around in there. No nerves, no nothing. Just turn it off.
Wow. That's amazing that you're able to do that with a breath, but it does show the power of that.
Yeah, just it's a controlled moment. I'm not thinking about songs or people or the audience or the judges, nothing. I just kind of exhale and let it all go and then walk out there.
That's amazing. Yeah, when you say like being on the stairs, like I think every athlete that's been on stage can feel that moment. Like
Yeah.
when it's said, we all know what that feels like. To be just about it's almost your turn. The people in front of you have gone, like there's people behind you also getting ready to go, but you're just in that moment and it's an exciting moment. And I think when you do hit the stage, you really embody. I don't know, I've always likened it to being the most present I've ever been in my life is when I'm on stage because you're just there. You're not thinking about anything. You're just feeling the moment.
Yep. It feels in a weird way, like 'cause I know my family has asked before, like, what's it like to be up there? It feels out of body. It does not
Yeah.
feel it doesn't feel like me. It doesn't feel like any other moments during any other kind of day, or it's just a whole different experience, and it's exhilarating in a part because I am, like I said, I feel like I turn on a different persona, like a different
Mhm.
level, a different human being, a different experience. And it's fleeting because the second you go to the other side of the stairs or right back to where you came from, it's just like that happened. I have no memory of it. But hopefully it was okay. Just one of those like, did that go as well as it felt? But it's an experience that there's nothing that compares to it.
Yeah, being farther removed from the last time you were on stage, like for me personally, I'll look back and I'll watch the videos and I'm like, wow, like I really did that up there. Like
Yeah.
I really nailed my posing and all the things that I've practiced and I enjoyed that. Do you ever look back and go, oh, wow, that yeah, that was me.
Yeah, I'll like, especially after this year, I think it kind of like my coach and I refer to it as leveling up. Like this year felt like a level up from every year before, just with regards to my stage presence, with regards to my overall confidence, my posing, just it felt like a different me. So when I see some of these videos, especially all of my Gilco ones, I look back and I'm like, how is that me? How is that me? Like I don't understand. I don't feel like I walk around in every like in normal everyday to day life with that level of confidence
Mhm.
or ability to just own a space. It does not, that kind of thing does not come naturally to me. So the fact that I can do it even just, in that moment, let alone a moment that is in front of a lot of people and in very little clothing, it is mind-boggling to me. But I love it. And I love looking back on it thinking like I did that. That was amazing.
For sure. Yeah, and this season being like a level up for you, let's talk a little bit about just how you felt post show because you'd identified there was some imposter syndrome feelings after you pretty much went viral for earning your pro card with a boot on your and a boot that had heels, mind you.
Yes. Um, there was a lot of imposter syndrome that happened after that. And I think um uh, there's people in my life that have kind of had to reel me back in after this. There was not only a part of me that thought that I didn't deserve it. Certainly, anytime I was backstage and just kind of surrounded by the caliber of athletes that I was surrounded by, we all have that moment where we're looking at everyone around us thinking, I don't stand a chance. Look at them. Like, look at the muscularity, the density, the conditioning, the glam, all of it. I don't fit in here. I don't stand a chance. And I think the first time I really, really felt that was at USA's in July. I think it was the only open national show that I did that didn't have a master's component. And I think I remember standing backstage before we went on, just our lineup for that class, thinking, I don't, I don't stand a chance. Like most of the
Mhm.
girls are half my age. Um, they have something that I don't, and I don't fit in here. I don't belong here. And in an odd way, I felt the same way after winning my pro cards. Just
Hmm.
in part because some of the athletes I had competed against already, and they had done better than me, placed higher than me. I thought, there's no way. This isn't going to happen. And in a weird way, because of the boot, I think I thought it brought attention to me that I might not have gotten otherwise.
Hmm.
Like it became a thing that wound up on social media pages everywhere, videos everywhere, podcasts here, there. Um, there was a part of my brain that said, you won that because of the boot,
Hmm.
because it looked good. Like it was a fun little thing that not necessarily the NPC, but just people could glom onto, and
Mhm.
it made for a good headline. Like, look at her, this is tenacity if it had a face or something like that. There were a lot of moments even afterwards where I'm like, I only won because I had a boot on. I didn't
Hmm.
win because I actually deserved it. I won because this made for like a really good like picture. It made for a great little clip on beyond the stage. There was just a part of me that
Yeah.
thought, I've shown up to all of these national shows looking fairly similar every single time. And it wasn't until I I broke my foot and
Mm.
created some, MacGyvered version of a heel to compete in that I finally did it. So there have been moments even after that where I said to myself, you are good because you did well your entire season, but missed, and it only happened because you had a broken foot. I don't necessarily think that's true anymore, but there are moments where my brain will slip, and that's where it heads. It heads like you aren't you're nothing special. Um, but that made for a good headline, so that's why you won.
Mm. Yeah, and that's understandable why you would feel that way because you came so close so many times before,
Mhm.
also looking really, really amazing. And then you show up at this one and you think maybe to discredit your
Yeah,
hard work instead of seeing it for what it is, which is you earned your pro card, it turned into that. Now, then you get the media attention and it's like, like yeah, it is drawing up this fire that maybe benefits the industry in some way as well. So I think it's perfectly natural and normal for you to have all of those considerations. And I'll say the reason I found you or saw your post was because of your foot.
right.
And but the reason I invited you on was not because of your foot. I was actually more impressed with the fact that you're a mom,
Yeah,
that you've been in this for a long time, that you've been driven, and your physique is incredible.
thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, so I had looked at your page and I was like, okay, like the boot thing, cool, amazing that you created that. I wanted to hear about how you did that. But beyond that, there were like, I have like two questions about your foot, and that was like
Right.
one of them. It's just to be honest, and I am curious what your feedback was after the show.
Oh, after that show, that was, I think at that point, that was my third time being in front of Bill, as a head judge, and it was pretty amazing finally kind of getting in the line backstage after the show to talk to him because we had a conversation backstage after Masters Nationals, where at that point he said you had the best glutes on stage, but you need some kind of, I think his exact words were, you need a couple of pounds of size in your upper to bring balance. And I think less than a week later, I went to USA's. And again, he kind of said the same thing, like, stop showing up until you actually add that size. And there was seven weeks in between USA's and North Americans. And I came in 3 pounds heavier. So if, that's what he wanted, that's what I delivered. I don't know if it went exactly where he wanted it to, but um, the feedback when I ran into him backstage was that like this was it. You finally nailed it. You brought exactly what I had been asking for, and this was your best look yet. And his only other commentary was that he was very happy that I didn't put rhinestones on the boot,
Yeah.
which I'm not gonna lie, I had them. I brought a whole package of them. Many people had encouraged me to put rhinestones on it, but just as a timing factor, I didn't have time to do it. So on that note, I'm really glad I did not put rhinestones on the
Yeah,
boot.
talk about drawing attention to the boot. That would have
Yeah.
been.
I think that's I mean, I say it's a time thing, but I think ultimately I knew it was going to be something that people were not going to be able to not notice. So I
Yeah.
didn't bring any additional like focus onto that foot because if they're paying attention to the foot, they're not paying attention to the physique. And I was just really hopeful that we could kind of minimize the amount of attention that the shoe was getting, even though it got a lot. But
I don't think I would have ever noticed the boot, though, to be honest, unless someone had pointed it out.
I've heard that a couple of times, and that like
Yeah.
those are the compliments that actually hit the hardest and feel the best to me because that was what I was hoping
Yeah.
for.
Yeah, like honestly, and there's many photos of you where I'm like, oh yeah, like she's in a boot. And specifically, I think the healing of the boot in the back pose helped
Mhm.
a lot. But I want to know what kept you from quitting when you broke your foot.
I wanted to. There's
Yeah.
no way to like pretend that immediately after it happened. not that I guess not that I wanted to, but I thought that was probably gonna be the only option. As immediately after I dropped the weight on my foot, I knew something was terribly wrong. Just I couldn't even move my foot, and I was terrified to take my shoe off because I was
Oh yeah,
afraid,
of
like, "Oh,
course.
this is gonna be a mess. It's probably bleeding." It wasn't, so I was lucky on that front, but I drive, I drive a manual transmission vehicle, so I
Oh.
broke my it was my left foot, and trying to even just trying to get home from the gym, I was in so much pain, I couldn't shift my car because I couldn't push the clutch in,
Mm,
and I was just trying to get in I remember trying to get into the driveway, and into the garage was just at a slight incline, and the pain was so overwhelming, I thought I was going to pass out, um, and I I came in the house, and I think I'd already texted my husband to let him know what was happening, and I went into our living room and I sat down and I lost it. I just sat there and cried thinking, "This is it. This is over. We've been at this since March." This was my last planned show for the year. I didn't think I could hold on to anything longer than that. We had been in prep for
yeah,
so long. I thought there's no way. There's no way. I can't even get my foot in my actual shoe right now, let alone a heel that is so tight and constricting. There's absolutely no way. And my husband convinced me to go to urgent care that night. So we went to an orthopedic urgent care, and I found out it was broken. And I
yeah,
remember sitting in the room, and like as soon as the doctor pulled the x-ray up on the screen, I'm not a doctor, I can't read x-rays, but I saw it immediately. I saw it break. Um, And she told me it was gonna be a 6 to 8 week healing process, and, that's at the point where I told her, I'm like, I'm a competitive bodybuilder, and I'm supposed to compete in, less than 2 weeks," and she said, "No, you're not. You can't. You can't be in those shoes."
mm,
Um, and I started crying, like, bless her heart, she doesn't know this woman in the chair, but, like, hands me a box of tissues, and then makes the effort to say, like, "Well, come back in a week. Let's make an appointment with an orthopedic surgeon who will reevaluate this in a week. And if the break is still kind of intact and not displaced, we'll talk about it. We'll see if that's possible." And I remember texting my coach from the doctor's office saying, like, I don't know how we're gonna do this. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm going to the show. I'd already paid for the hotel and the flight. I hadn't registered yet, so I think that was just kind of in the back of my mind, like,
yeah,
I'll do that, but every bit of me wanted to give up that first few hours. It's like,
of course.
this is unimaginable. How is this even going to make sense? Mm. But I think once that initial shock wore off, my brain was like, "You can't. I don't know how, but you can't. You can't give up now."
Wow. Yeah, and I think that speaks even more to how far you had come this season and how committed and driven you were and how close you knew you were too. You're like, I know I'm right there. So you're then facing like, okay, I can't I'm assuming you didn't practice much posing after that.
Oh, but I did.
Oh, you did.
Good. It's fun to look back on it now, but I think within a day, like I was immediately put into a post-op boot to kind of
Mhm.
stabilize my foot. Um, and I immediately started to like, can I practice this even just in the boot itself? I had stumbled across another competitor, a figure competitor who had done a competition, a regional one with a boot, but a much larger kind of up the calf boot. And she
Mhm.
did it with one heel and the boot with no kind of compensation for the height difference. And I said, okay, well, maybe I can do this. And I couldn't, like, there was no way in a back pose that I could kind of
Yeah.
get that level. Like, obviously, one glute is down on the ground and the other one is 5 inches in the air. Um, so I tried and I practiced a lot, even though it hurt, because I figured that's the only way I'm going to figure out what
Yeah.
to do. With my posing coach, we reworked my routine. So, excuse me, less of my weight was being put on that foot. So I couldn't do certain transitions anymore. We had to rework which direction I was turning and how I was turning just to avoid putting weight directly on that foot. And even still, like I think, 10 weeks after having broken that foot, I still can't put a ton of weight on it. So the
Mm.
little things that we learned 9 weeks ago are still in play now, just to avoid direct pressure on where that break was. But yeah, I immediately started practicing just to figure it out. I figured that's the only way. I had at that point 11 days. So posing was something I had become very confident in this last year, and I didn't want to lose that going out on stage. So
Mhm.
immediately practiced.
How'd you make the boot the way that you did?
There were a lot of iterations of like possible options leading up to that one creation.
Uh-huh.
For check-in photos going up to it, I would literally just put my foot on top of a shoe and stand there. I couldn't bend the ball of my foot to fit it in any way, shape, or form. Um, but I could stand, so I thought, like, that might be an option. My coach's wife cut up an old pair of shoes to, like, basically remove the front portion plastic
Oh, wow.
that, like, I could rest my foot on top of the shoe and then just tape my foot to the shoe, and
Yeah.
that was the first kind of, "Oh, maybe we can do something that actually resembles a shoe without it being a normal shoe." And I could kind of pose in it. I could get through a normal-ish routine, but I could not walk. I couldn't
Uh-huh.
barely walk out there. And I think my brain said the only thing you can do right now that is comfortable and allows you to walk somewhat normally is to be in the stupid boot. But how do you make that boot the same height as your heel? And
Mhm.
it just my something clicked, and I thought about the wedges that you use in the gym, like the yoga wedges that you kind of use to elevate your toes
Yes.
in certain movements, and I was like, I wonder if that would work. So I went on Amazon and I found, I think, like a 3-pack of wedges that had different heights, like different degrees of angles. And as soon as it came in, it was, like, massive. I mean, way bigger than the shoe itself, but when
Yeah.
I put the shoe on the wedge and, like, put my heel next to it, they were the same height. I was like, "This is perfect. I just have to somehow cut it down
Mm.
in size, and make it work." And I have a miter saw in my basement, so I just took it downstairs and very haphazardly cut through this foam block with a saw and,
Wow.
like, went back upstairs, and I taped the block onto the bottom of the boot, and I got the other foot and heel, and I stood there, and I was like, "This is the same height. This is exactly the same height."
Oh,
And I
wow.
could open it. Like, it didn't adjust how my foot felt in the boot itself, which,
Yeah.
um, for the most part, it felt fine. Um, so I said, like, "This could work," and then immediately started practicing with that setup. So I had to wear the boot all day, every day, so I would just tape the little wedge to the boot, when it was time to practice posing, and it wasn't until I think the day before the show that I actually, like, physically glued it down because I was
Wow.
too worried that the tape would give out on
Oh, for
stage.
sure.
So,
She used, like,
yeah,
crazy glue or something?
exactly.
Yeah. Would have been so scared of that too. Uh, yeah, I think there's a couple people coming to mind, like Kimber. She
Yeah, I've heard
competed
about that.
with a sprained ankle. And then I want to say it was Denby. My memory might be failing me because I haven't spoken with Denby on the podcast for like ages. I think that was like 2018, but I think she competed with a broken wrist or something. So no matter what it impacts, like training and I think it's impressive that you pushed through because you were committed to it and clearly it paid off. And you were willing to do what it took to get
Mhm.
there. Now you're in building season, right?
Yeah, we're in off season now.
Okay, awesome. So what are you currently focusing on?
Focusing on just adding more size overall. I think it was really kind of eye-opening to go to my first show as a pro and see the caliber
Mhm.
of athletes. Like, I mean, not that I hadn't been around pros before. Lots of them show up at the national shows for their own athletes, but I think just kind of seeing everybody backstage, I realized, like, I have room to add. some size. And that was my feedback after my pro debut was, great, but also more. So that's what we're angling towards now is more shoulders, more back, more glutes, just the bikini recipe on repeat
Yeah,
until the end of time.
for sure. Do you have a timeline, or are you kind of just like once we see what we need to see?
We finally set a timeline. I think we're gonna angle to get back on stage in summer of 2026.
Nice.
So that it's about a 6-month off season, all said and done. Or like 6 months off from competing. So I'm pretty excited to see how that'll go.
Yeah.
Getting out there almost immediately after winning my pro card was I wasn't sure that was exactly what I wanted to do, but I think the more I sat with it, I thought and my feedback was great after um, the national show. But what is my feedback compared to the people I'm going to be competing against now? So that's to me, it was like just hang on a little bit longer. It's been a very long season, but just hang on and go knock that pro debut out and get the feedback um, with the knowledge of knowing this feedback is you now compared to pros, whereas it's never been you've just been compared to
Yeah.
other amateurs. So here's your feedback compared to pros, and then get to work. I figured I kind of knew. I mean, we all knew. Like I said, the bikini recipe. Everybody needs more glutes, more delts, more back, more everything. Um, so it just kind of delivered a peace of mind of like now we actually are working towards what the judges want, even though it's exactly probably what we would have been working towards anyways, but a little bit more fine-tuned with what, three pro level judges had to say after the pro debut. So it's a good feeling going into an off season knowing 100% what we're working towards and angling towards that.
If you're looking for competition heels, jewelry, and fun competitor extras, then visit shoefairyofficial.com and use code CELESTE for a discount at checkout. Definitely. Now, do you choose your show schedules based on like your kids or their schedules at all? Do you consider that?
Yes, I primarily have only competed in the summer, because it's just harder to travel in the school year when there's, yeah, obviously school and,
Yeah.
pickups and drop-offs. It's a lot to put on my husband, to do that kind of stuff solo. A lot easier in the summer when there's camps and they're gone longer and so on and so forth. So the last 2 years, my season has kind of extended into the school year, which has been a little bit challenging. Um, but yeah, I try to kind of gear it around the time of the year where it's a little bit more flexible as a family unit to compete. Um, so that's I'm just gonna stay on that trajectory because it's worked for us in the last 3 years. So that's
Yeah.
how we're angling it.
That's great. Yeah, it was like, I don't know if that's a coincidence or if that's a conscious effort.
Conscious effort to minimize how impactful competing is on the rest of the family because
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, yeah, what's that dynamic like at home? Like, how do your kids respond to your journey and your husband?
they've taken to it really well. I think the first time I did it, or kind of prepped for a show, it didn't end up happening because of the pandemic. So I kind of went through a prep starting in 2019 into March of 2020. And I think it was just so minimal at that time. I, had been working out for a while, so they were kind of used to that. And I don't think anybody really paid attention to what I was doing at that point.
Hmm.
It didn't phase my kids. That was, I don't know, 6 years ago now. So my 13-year-old would have been, 7, and my daughter would have been, oh gosh, 4. So I don't think she has any
Uh-huh.
memory of it whatsoever at that point. So it never ended up happening. I never ended up going anywhere. So there was no impact outside of, you know, me tracking my food and going to the gym, which I continued to do after the fact. So like I said, my daughter, she's been around this since she was 4. She's 10 now. I don't think she knows any different. I don't think she knows what a life looks like. She certainly doesn't remember, a time where mom didn't work out or didn't kind of have her own meals outside of everybody else's meals. So I think it's very normal to them now. And I don't think, this really leveled with my husband until I started to get good at it,
Mm.
because the first 2 years of competing, I was one show and done. That was it. Just go and do that, and then you're done, and it's not a big deal. But my 3rd year competing was when it kind of started taking off for me, and I think it consumed a lot more of me then, and that started to have a bigger impact when, I think last year I competed in 2024, I competed in 4 shows, 2 of which, um well, actually 3 required travel. 2 of them were somewhat local, like a 4-hour drive, but 1, a big national show away. And then this year, every single show was travel. Every show I did required a plane ride and a hotel stay and at least, 2 or 3 days gone, and it had an impact in ways that I probably wasn't as, aware of
Mm.
or cognizant of. So I think that's part of the way I've had to dial back and say, like, I need to be better at balancing. Um, I think it took off way in a way that I wasn't prepared for, and it definitely had an impact at home. Just like, you're traveling on the weekends for shows, but then you're also gone, you know, to train at a gym a half an hour away on the weekends too, and that's 3 hours a day. Or so how, that was one of my post pro debut sit downs and think like, how can I find a balance where it doesn't
Mm.
impact my family as much as it does? And so now, I've adjusted my training schedule to where I am on what days and to be present here more.
Mm.
Because it's one of those things that you don't realize it until you realize it, and then once you do, you look back and you're like, oh shit, that was that was a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, sometimes I think when you're in that moment, in the thick of it, like, you'll do anything and you're very focused, and then when it's said and done, you look back and you're like, "Oh, I realize now this was affected."
Yeah, I don't like in some ways. I think there was one comment my son made after we kind of wrapped up my pro debut, because they came, it was their very first time coming to a show,
Oh, wow.
um, which was amazing. Like, there's no words to express what it's like to be on the stage and see them in the audience,
Oh.
just standing and cheering and, kind of like, if it was acceptable to cry on stage, that's why that would have been it. That would have made me cry. Uh, But, we were on our way back from Florida, and he said something along the lines of like, "Does this mean you still have to be gone on Saturdays?" And Saturdays were the days that I would go to train in person with my coach, and then after the training with my coach, I would stay and, um, we would have a team posing hour. So it was, I would leave often before everybody in the house got up, and then I wouldn't be home until closer to 11 a.m. So it was a long Saturday morning. And at first I said, like, no, like, just because the season's over doesn't mean I stop training. And then, it dawned on me, like, they
Mm.
take notice of these things. And, chances are, even if I were home, he would probably be in front of the Xbox or the TV or doing something online with his friends. So it's not like if I were home, he would be hanging out with me and wanting to, like, clean the house or do the laundry. That's not what's happening, but the fact
'Cause
that
you're
he took
definitely
note.
the one doing that.
Right. They are not helping. There's no help yet from them. But, it little things like that made me kind of sit down and think, "I've gotta do this differently so that my family is just as much a priority as this, hobby." And quite literally, it is a hobby. There's n Yes, I'm a professional now, but, it's not paying my bills in any way, so I've got to make sure my family is my number 1 priority too.
That's very well said, and I think there's some people who might decide, like, it's not for them to continue,
Mhm.
and some people might decide, "No, it does fit in with my life still." So, when you look back at when you started compared to now, like, what would you tell yourself when it comes to juggling family life and career and the competition lifestyle? Like, what would you maybe what would be your warning label and what would
Yeah,
be your,
I know,
like.
warning label would be a good way to put it. My warning label would be to seriously sit down and find balance. Like, there was an easy balance at first because it didn't take up a lot of my time. It took up the bare minimum time that one would devote to this kind of endeavor. But once it became kind of obvious that I was going to do well and needed to continue to get to the, finish line of the pro card, um, it was going to require a lot more of me and in turn a lot more of my family. And I think I would have warned myself, my younger self of that in order to kind of find true harmony across all walks of my life, I need balance. Um, but I'm sure, like you said, I'm sure some people would find a moment where they'd recognize that this is too much. Um, I've devoted my entire life to my family. So it wasn't until I found this that I realized, like, I'm allowed to have something for me too.
Oh, I
And
love that.
something that's like outside of raising children, outside of putting my husband and his career and his needs to kind of advance in that front, in front of my own. This is something for me. And it really kind of ties back in everything that I was before I was a mom, before I was a wife. Like
Yeah.
it kind of draws me back to who I was as an athlete in college, in high school and in college. And in a way, it kind of completes me as an adult. So it's not something I'm willing to really give up. Um, but it is something that I am 100% going to fight to find the balance for so that I can keep this, but also, be as present for my family as I possibly can.
I think that's really beautiful. Yeah, like you deserve the time and the energy and the passion towards what you love. And you've given and continue to give so much to your family and you can do both. So you're finding like what does that look like to do both in a way that is fulfilling for me and for them. What do you hope that your kids learn from watching you through this? Because you had said that it was very moving for you to see them in the stage. So what do you hope they learn from it?
Well, my ultimate hope, and I think I see a lot of this on social media. It's like, oh, if my children see me eat well, if my children see me work out, they will absorb my habits and make them theirs. That is not
Dang
that's
it.
uh no. I wish. I mean, my husband and I joke about it all the time. Like we eat incredibly well, fully balanced meals, and then our kids come in and they're like, "Can we just have a muffin for breakfast every day for 5 years?" And that's never
For
literally the
real.
same muffin every day, for years and years on end. So
That's their meal plan.
there's nothing about our desire to eat well or work out frequently that has in any way, shape, or form, like, rubbed off onto our kids. Even this last year, I think, you know, we want our son to be more physically active, so I gave him an ultimatum. I said, "You can join the school's track team," which that's me. That's my history. It's
Yeah.
my love, the only sport aside from bodybuilding that I will actually sit down and watch with any kind of enthusiasm. I was a sprinter and high jumper, and I love it with every fiber of my being. And I think it's an easy sport. If you're going to be participating in something via your school, like you can run one event and then the rest of the time you just get to sit around and talk to your friends. I think it's amazing.
It's a good
But I
point.
told them, I was like, "You have to do something. It's not just video games all the time. So you have 2 options. You can join the track team or I'll coach you. And I can promise you're not going to like what I put you through, but maybe you'll like being with your friends and, occasionally having to practice or go to a meet." And at first he said he would take the meet option. I think he was worried about kind of, not doing well in front
Yeah,
of
of
his friends.
course.
Um, and then I think once he sat with that for a while, knowing what he knows about what I do, he came back, he's like, "Okay, I wanna join the track team." So, my hope is that they see this and they realize, first and foremost, chasing your dreams is absolutely, absolutely worth it. Like, there's no guarantee, and I think they see that after the years and years that it took me to get where I wanted to be. There's no guarantee that if you put in your effort and your time and you do everything according to plan, that you're going to get the outcome that you want. And there's no guarantee that even if you do that for the entirety of it all, it'll happen. Because they've known what my ultimate goal is all along, and there's no guarantee that I'll get there. But I think they see the passion and the drive, and I want them to see that and know that that is important. It's important to take those things and kind of apply them across the board, liberally, like just put it into everything that you are doing, because there's no point in living if you don't have dreams that you want to chase and goals that you want to achieve. It really does make life and all of its hardships that much more worth it to be able to have those things. So I want them to take that, to say, it's going to be hard. There's no easy path. There's no guarantee, but if it's something that I want and I'm willing to put in the work, like, it's 100% worth doing. And then maybe on some level at some point they'll realize that working out and eating well is good. We'll get there at some point.
Oh man, that story is so great. I love that. And I can tell you we've had the same conversation with my stepson actually. Um, for like months, I mean, for years on my husband's standpoint, but for months it's been like, okay, you've got to choose something to
Yeah.
do. You cannot just be doing, he loves making music and he's great at making music, but you can't just do that. You've got to do something with a team, discipline, but more so than anything, physical health,
Yes.
mental health comes from that too.
Yeah.
So he was pretty defiant about it, and we eventually we made a list of like 10
Give it your
different
options.
activities. And we said, you didn't choose, so now you get to choose from this list. Well, then he had an idea, which was skateboarding. So now he's been doing that and he's been super dedicated to it. He's actually been practicing it, like, and we're seeing this different side, this drive come out, which is really awesome. And yeah, we it's because we didn't let up. And I think sometimes it's hard to have those conversations. I remember he was so upset with us too. Like I remember how he felt. Like it was such an uncomfortable
Yeah.
moment, but it was necessary. And now it's like, it's kind of like kids don't really know what they need, but if they know they can trust you, eventually like they'll come around to it. But it
I
was
have no idea if that's what factored into it, but yeah. I think we've said that before. Like, we've been there. We were your age. We were,
Mhm.
teenagers before. We know how this feels, but like, trust us. You like this is good for you. You're good. So,
So
uh,
true.
but yeah, 13 is a hard age to kind of convince someone to do something that they think is going to embarrass them, or
Exactly.
yes, I think that's the hardest part. But we're like, just trust us on this one. But also, like, your friends are gonna be there. No one's gonna make fun of you. But just go and do it. And so hopefully, next spring it'll
That's
be something
awesome.
he decides on his own or some other activity. But um there we are king on having that balance, between, yes, you can sit and play video games, but also you have to get out and do something too.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, I remember as a kid, like, if I said I was bored or something, it was like, you have the same face. You know exactly what I was.
If you're bored, I can give you
Let
something
me
to
give you,
do.
yeah, let me give you something you can do. So, man, we were outside so quick if we've
Yep.
been, never mind.
Yep.
So, you did say, though, that you really found bodybuilding to fulfill this version of you that previously existed before motherhood, kind of brought you back to that. So what was it that really made you fall in love with bodybuilding, especially after like the early prep, having the uncertainty of whether you're going to step on stage or not, because 2020,
Yeah.
and then going through some like one show a year and then finally coming really close. Like how did you, what made you go, oh, I really love this. I'm hungry for it.
Yeah, that's a crazy good question. I think a lot of college athletes could probably empathize with this. There's something that happens when your last season ends as an athlete in college and you graduate and you go on. I immediately went on to grad school, and started my master's, but it was something missing. There was a void, a very big void, especially since I had gone from high school, you know, on to college. Like, that was all I knew. I didn't know college without kind of practice in the morning and lifting, or weightlifting at 6 a.m. and then practice at 3 p.m. Like, that was that was my day for years. Like everything was scheduled around practice and training, and to just kind of go back to a life where that didn't exist and suddenly be an adult, it was weird. And when I was in grad school, I think I'd mentioned in the questionnaire, like I experienced some really intense autoimmune issues.
Mhm.
We never really got to the bottom of it, but um, I have an autoimmune disorder called focal myositis, where my body just will focally, or like a localized spot, just attack my muscles and cause
Mm.
inflammation. And I had surgery in 2009 to kind of get to the bottom of it, to figure out what it was. I had, lymph nodes removed and a part of my quad removed to just kind of
Mm.
determine what was going on. And for a long time, like I was honestly too worried to do anything, because the pain that I had originally experienced happened, after I think a cycle class, like a spin class. And I think I had an association with like training and like
Pain.
pain. Like, is this going to come back? Did I somehow trigger this to happen by working out? And so I didn't do anything for a very long time. Um, and I think after my son was born, I got into CrossFit for a little bit, and I really loved that. But it was
Mm.
consuming. With he was like 9 months old at the time. It was really hard to kind of work full time, be a mom full time, go to CrossFit, and all of that. So again, I put it on the back burner, and like I said, a fellow photographer had gotten into bodybuilding, and I remember looking at her like behind the scenes photos, thinking like her arms look amazing. I want arms like that. And the only time I could remember having, any kind of muscle like that was when I had been an athlete, or the little stint I did with CrossFit. Um, and I thought maybe that's what I'm missing. And there was a part of me at that point, um, I hate to even admit it, who thought I needed to lose weight. I was like, "Oh, I it was a skinny fat kind of thing.
Mhm.
Just sit around and I don't do much of anything, physically active, so I need to like, this is what I need to do. I need to start working out so I can lose weight." And little did I know that that was the last thing that I needed to do. I did not need to lose weight. I just
Mhm.
needed to put on muscle. Um, so when I started dabbling in it, as one does, like the endorphins that come from a really good lift, or, you know, anything like that. And it was incredibly reminiscent of the feeling of being an athlete. And I thought, this
Mhm.
this might be it. This is something I'm familiar with. Like I had, world class weight trainers when I was in college. I learned how to lift then, and I felt like, it was like riding a bike. That kind of stuff was just coming back to me, and I enjoyed it. And it did. It gave me something for me outside of being a mom, outside of being a business owner, outside of being a wife. And because as a business owner, I work by myself, for myself. All of my days are alone. This gave me something where I wasn't, sitting in front of my computer. I was out around
Mhm.
other people at a gym, and it provided just, it's like a little puzzle piece that was missing.
Yeah.
Um, and it made me feel more alive. Like it gave me something for me that wasn't, somehow tied to the other three main points of my life, which were work, kids, and husband. So I really enjoyed it, and um, obviously I didn't do very well at the beginning, but I liked it enough that that was something that was worth sticking with, because benefits across the board in all different directions, but I really loved it.
You fell in love with the process of it sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, I really, as odd as it sounds, because I'm not sure everybody loves it, but I really do love training.
Mhm.
There's something cathartic about lifting heavy, playing, screaming music in my ears, and just, um, you know, I'm a huge fan of, Olympic lifting. I did a lot of that in college, and so anytime I get to deadlift, my coach knows like I am just a sucker for sumo deadlifting. Any way, shape, or form I can work that into a program, it's my happy place. It makes me feel just crazy powerful and strong.
Mhm.
So yeah, I love everything about it. I've had a couple of ups and downs where I'm like, I don't really want to go and train today, but by and large, it's my outlet. It's my little personal therapy for a day, and I I love it. There's nothing that's ever going to, kind of take me away from that, whether I'm competing for 2 more years, 5 more years, whatever it is, training will it's gonna stay. I know the benefits of it overall, so it's here to stay, and I yeah,
Mhm. Definitely. Like, you're always gonna love it and make it part of your life because it's
yeah,
just a natural part of you now.
it is, and, as I get older, as my husband gets older, and our parents get older, I can already see the benefits of it, where weight
Yeah.
training is necessary to be able to quite literally do something as simple as getting up from a chair. So
100%.
So I will, as long as my body allows, continue to train, if not certainly not for aesthetics forever, but just longevity. I want to be able to do the simple things that I can already see that our parents are struggling with.
Definitely. Yeah. My dad is so active, and I admire that about him because I see how much it benefits his life, and
Mhm.
it inspires me to keep being active too. Not that I'm not inspired, but I mean, into my older age, I'd like to be like him and just be exploring and experimenting and trying different things. And he's very regimented in it. And so there's a big difference between him and some of his peers who
Yes.
haven't prioritized that. Um, and it makes me sad for them and for their families too, on some level. Now, granted, there's also people who are incredibly fit, healthy, in shape, and have something chronic or what's the word I'm looking for? Just something awful can happen, like, and
Yep.
you don't see it coming. But I think the best thing you could do, just even for day to day fulfillment, is move and nourish. Side note though, pregnancy, man, I'm like, I'll work out 3 to 4 days a week, and that's good. Like,
Well, I did nothing through either of my pregnancies. So like I don't there were days I probably didn't even move, if I'm being honest.
no, literally, there's some days where I'm like, whoo, yep, went up and down the stairs a couple times to take care of the
There you go.
dog, walked him. But
Yep, there
I will say, like, there's weeks where I'm like, I feel like how I was in competition mode, and then there's weeks where I'm just like, gosh, I have to go lift something. I don't want to.
the fact that you have been, active at all through a pregnancy is just it's amazing. Because
Well,
some of us,
thank
like
you.
I said, I didn't do anything. I did nothing through either of my pregnancies, and in hindsight, I just know, even from hearing it from other moms, just how much easier not only delivery can be, but
Oh,
postpartum if you have
that's
stayed
helpful.
active the other so you're doing yourself a good favor by doing it now.
See, I needed to hear that because it's
Yeah.
like gonna get me to go again tomorrow. Today I worked out at home and I was like, you know what? This is gonna be me doing stuff that'll help me hold the baby for longer. And I
Yep,
just used
there you
like
go.
light weights and did like high reps, very slow movements. And I watched Netflix while I did it. And I was like, this is good. This is something.
It is so good. I need you repeat that to yourself for the rest of this pregnancy.
That's
This is good.
right. Thank you. I needed to hear that. Now I might cry because I'm like so emotional about everything. Just hearing that affirmation meant a lot to me. So anyway, me aside, I want to go back to the the first show experience. It's one thing to be an active competitor and have your first or one of your shows get canceled. It's another thing to be a first time competitor and have that experience. So what was it like for you when you found out, like, okay, my show's not happening?
Well, it was hard. I think I don't know. I feel like 2020 is just such a for anybody like that happened. That was a thing. It's weird in hindsight to look back on it. But I remember just the weeks leading up to that. I think the show was scheduled for the end of March. It was a Dave Lieberman show in Ohio that I was
Oh,
filming.
yeah.
And, I was super excited because 'cause I'm from Cleveland, and I was gonna get to go home, I was gonna see my family, and then the news started trickling in about, possible pandemic or this virus, and I remember my coaches at the time being pretty adamant about making it to this show. They're like, the virus is overhyped, don't worry about it, like, nothing should stop you from coming." And I remember thinking at the time, I'm like, "Well, I don't live in Ohio. I have to get there somehow. I have small kids and I have, autoimmune issues. Like, I don't want to get sick.
Right.
So I remember saying, like, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to pull this off, even if the show doesn't get canceled. Um, and I think the Arnold was just a few weeks before this, and they had dropped it. They kept the Arnold that year, but they dropped it to have no spectators.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking, like, this is not going to go well. This is just not going to pan out in my favor. Um, and my coaches at the time were like, "If you don't come, we're gonna be very disappointed in you." And I said, I might not have the option. Like, I don't live in Ohio, so I could drive, but it's a long drive." Um, and sure enough, I think, like, 2 days later, Ohio was probably one of the first states, I think, like, just shut down. They're like, "We're not doing
Hmm.
this. The show is canceled." And I thought to myself, like, "I'm never doing this again. Like, I'm never gonna do this again." This was it was the first prep, so I had no idea
Yeah.
what to expect, and it not that it was hard, but it was a lot, and I thought to myself, "I'm never doing this again, because what if this happens?" We'd never
Right.
lived through a pandemic before. I had no idea what was gonna happen, when things were gonna open back up. Gyms were closed. How does I think shows were at that point, they were like, "Well, we'll maybe, like, push it out. We'll
Hmm.
postpone it for a few months." And for people that had already been in prep for 20 weeks, like, you postpone what? What do you want me to do?
No,
I
literally.
I had no experience with anything like this. Now at this point, I'd been in, this year I did a 6-month prep, so it is possible, but at that time, I didn't think I could sustain or maintain any of that, and I thought to myself, like, "I'm never doing this again, because if I have to go through this whole process and find out 2 weeks before I'm supposed to get on stage that it's not happening because another virus takes over, I this is ridiculous." So, I tried to do a reverse after that, and I think I just kind of went back into a normal life. I stopped tracking for a while. Obviously, gyms were closed. I spent a small fortune on, a squat rack and some barbells and plates for home, but it's hard. It's hard
Oh,
to
yeah.
do all that stuff at home in the same kind of capacity that you were doing it at a gym. So things did not transpire very well for me, and all of 2021, I kept with that, like, I'm not doing this.
Wow.
I'm not gonna compete ever again. Certainly not after essentially homeschooling kids for a year, because schools were closed, gyms were closed.
Forgot about that aspect affecting you. Yeah.
It was chaos. We were
Wow.
home all the time. I was essentially a teacher, um, as a kindergartner, tried to do kindergarten on an iPad. It was just I was
While
that
working.
that changed the life of me forever. But then in, 2022 rolled around, and I thought to myself, like, I a part of me thought I owed it to myself to give it a go and see how it could
Mm.
actually end up. Um, so I think, I can't remember how long my prep was that year, maybe 12 weeks. It wasn't a ton, and I certainly hadn't been, like, training the way I should have been before that show, but I thought, I wanna know what it feels like. And so 2022, I count as, like, the start of it all. That was the first show in summer of 2022, and it is, like I said at the very start of this, there's something that happens when you step on that stage. And I
Mhm.
know it's not for everyone, and probably everyone doesn't have that same experience, but it was otherworldly, and I'm like, let's
Yeah.
just keep doing this. This is amazing." So,
That's so cool. Yeah, I love that. And it's great that you found that motivation or that will to come back after the disappointment and after the uncertainty and after the challenges that came with that year. And you have said in the past, like finding the right coach really changed the trajectory of your physique, but also for your life and as a person. So, what has made your coaching relationship so important and impactful?
um, my first round of coaching, I've had my fair share. Kind of started out on a bigger team, and then kind of transitioned to, like, a individual that had branched off from that team. Um, it's one of those things where, as far as I can explain, like, you don't know what you don't know. And then when you know it, everything that came before it seems different.
Yeah.
Um, my first few shows, I didn't have a coach there, and in fact, I didn't really have any kind of show day hands-on anything, so I did not know that there was timing for meals. I didn't know that there was like that you needed to do, kind of any literally anything. It was just
Mhm.
showed up to a show, kind of ate some of my normal stuff and went out on stage. There was no kind of process to it. And like I said, you don't know what you don't know. I didn't know that that was not how
Right.
it was done until the show that I competed in here in the Twin Cities, the Twin Cities Open. The promoter is also a coach, and he had quite a few athletes in the show, and I just, I made friends with a few of them backstage, and it was kind of magnificent to watch what transpired, like,
Mm.
that there were check-ins going on show day, like,
Mhm.
"What?" That was fun. And that, like, macros were being delivered, like, "Here, meal 1, meal 2, eat this before stage, this, like, exact" and I was like, "This is insane." And this is not only is this insane, but, like, it's happening from someone who's also running an entire show. Like, the dedication that
Yeah.
I witnessed,
Mhm.
and I thought, like, maybe that's what I need. Maybe I need somebody who is in person to me locally that, can help me, in part because my the last show that I had competed in, I think I had told my coach multiple times going up to the show, "I don't feel lean enough. I don't feel ready. I don't feel this. I don't feel that." And she assured me time and time again that I was right where I needed to be. Things were great. And it wasn't until after the show that she kind of owned. She's like, "Well, maybe we missed the mark." I
Hmm.
think she said something along the lines of, "Your bathroom lighting made you look leaner than what you were." And I thought, "Oh, okay. Well, maybe if I had someone that could see me in person, that kind of mishap would never happen again. I would never be able to be told
Mhm.
that, like, my lighting was deceptive." And so I reached out to my current coach, Jeff, and kind of I met him in person and we kind of chatted, and I gave my overall goals of what I wanted to achieve. And I was just worried it wasn't going to go well. It wasn't going to be a good fit. So I only kind of took on an approach to him at like a monthly basis. I'm like, I'm not going to sign on for any extended amount of time. I'll just do 1 month. And if it feels like it works, then we can move forward. So I started with him in January of 2024.
Nice.
And it was a night and day difference immediately, like, just being able to not only train in person with somebody who could, um, help me, like, push me, but it was the first time having a coach that had any, um, desire to know about my lifting.
Hmm.
Gotten training splits from all of my other coaches, but nobody ever asked to see my form, nobody ever asked to see videos of my lifts to kind of critique any of that, and certainly I wasn't lifting in person with them, so that I feel like that changed, just
Oh,
having
yeah.
somebody wanted not only to see the logs of what I was lifting to ensure that I was actually putting in effort and progressively overloading as the days and weeks went on, but in person to kind of like correct my form, to fix what I was doing wrong, to ensure that everything was optimal. It was an absolute game changer.
Mhm.
And then to not only find a coach that cared about that kind of stuff, but also cared about me as a person and saw my potential. Like when I said, "These are my goals," I think he looked at me and said immediately, like, "Yep, yes, like we'll make
Nice.
that happen." And we absolutely did make that happen. Um, from the first show I competed in under him, like I never lost. And
That's
that's just
awesome.
amazing to look back on our history together. Just I won every regional class that I entered in, from start to finish. That was 4 regional shows, but I took home 2 overalls, which had never even been
Mm.
in the realm of a possibility. And then,
Mm.
we had a tough first national show together, but we learned a lot. And then from that, kind of geared it towards the very next season, this last season, and just really kind of fine-tuned everything time and time again. And it was, at this point, he's one of my best friends, and, kind of getting to do this journey with somebody who is so knowledgeable about the sport and invested in their athletes and invested in the community and the bodybuilding, scene. It literally changed everything. It went from, like, this is just a thing I do to this is a thing that I'm really potentially very good at, and with the right people in your corner, it's really amazing to see how far you can go.
Oh, that's so true. I bet there's so many athletes who could say the same thing. Like a transition like that made a huge difference. And when you have a coach who you feel more supported by, or like you have a better process with, you're starting to see changes, starting to see success, it really does bolster that trust even more too. Um, the shared accountability as well. And having someone who understands your life beyond the stage too.
That's huge.
So the fact that you got someone who you trust in all those ways probably also makes a huge difference in the support. Like it's not just about what your physique is looking like.
Yeah. No, it's not even me specific. I mean, it's just you can see it in the way he supports every single one of the athletes on his roster. And I suppose it's different, for the big teams with a lot of athletes, maybe don't get that individual one-on-one attention, but the majority of his athletes are here local to the Twin Cities. And, that's I think what I loved about it so much was just seeing the way every athlete was put at the top of the list. Like, there was no priority given to anybody, but just like absolute unwavering support through the entire journey, and getting to, go to some of these shows as a competitor, not just as a competitor, but as, a spectator, and witness just how this team kind of supported each other and kind of has grown over the last few years. It's like I found like this is exactly where I need to be. This is home for me now. And
Oh,
totally changed how I view bodybuilding and how I view the sport.
wow.
But it's one of those things that I hope everybody finds. Like, if this is something you really want to kind of grow in, I think finding the right fit for you it's so important. It changes
So
everything.
true. So true. Sometimes taking that leap of faith too and leaving and trying something new is hard, but
So hard.
pays off.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When I contemplated leaving, I kept thinking like the devil I know is better than the devil I don't know.
Mm,
How could I possibly find somebody that like I feel comfortable talking to or could understand me going into a show or my life, or like all of the complexities of owning businesses and being a mom and all of this. But yeah, sometimes making that leap is just exactly what you need at any given moment to propel you into the next level.
definitely. This is a random question, but I never asked you what did you study in college?
Nothing related to what I do now. uh,
Okay, that's I was curious.
it's so fun. Not at all. I have an undergrad in political science and a master's in public administration, and most of my coursework towards a PhD in higher education administration.
Wow.
And I am a newborn photographer as a
Right.
career.
So different. Like
It
I
is so different. Out of grad school, I worked in law for a few years. I did the only kind of law you can actually do without being an attorney, and that's Social Security law. You can
Hmm,
practice Social Security law. You have to be certified, but you do not need a law degree. So I did that for the better part of 5 years, which is a very mentally tasking job to kind of. Yes, it's hard, and while I was doing that, I started dabbling in photography on the side. I had baby fever, and I
aw,
don't want a baby, so I was like, "This is a great way to kind of get to be around small humans and not have one of my own," and that's how I got started, photographing newborns, and it kind of took off, and I've been doing that now for 15 years, so.
wow. That's so cool. That's a big job, newborn photography too. There's a lot of trust in the photographer to position the baby in ways that
Mhm.
is safe. How did you learn that?
A lot of trial and error, so
Mm.
bless all of the souls that were trusting of me with their business along the way. I did a lot of, you know, I did a lot of in-person training with other photographers that had done it. Like, we're talking like the Ann Geddes, like actual pose babies, not just like mom and dad holding the baby. Like, I physically pose
Right.
these like little
Nug
angels. It is hard. It is one of it's kind of like bodybuilding in a way where I'm like from a spectator's point of view, you're like, how hard could it be?
Mm.
Like you just lift weights and then you stand and you pose. And for a baby, it's like it's just a baby. They're sleeping. How hard could it be? It's hard. It is very hard. Because babies are humans and they don't want to do what you want them to do all the time. Sometimes they want to be held or eat. And it was just something, I worked on for a few years, and the more I did it, the easier it got. And to me now it's like it is a science. There is a science to it. I have an entire workflow to make it happen, and
Wow.
I still absolutely love it because I love newborns and I do not want newborns. Two is my max, but it gives me the ability to be around babies and kind of soak up like the most perfect of human beings and
Mm.
then give them back to their parents, and I get to go sleep at night and they don't.
Yeah. It's so true. I love that. Oh, that's awesome. I love how you got into that. How'd you end up deciding you did want to have kids then?
I think that was part of it. Just like and I was young too in high I think I never really wanted kids until after I got married, and then um something to, just I think just human nature, it clicked, and so I had my first when I was 26. I was the first amongst my friends to have kids.
Wow. Yeah.
So even now I feel like a young mom. I think like most
26 is young in my
it,
opinion.
yes. And these days and ages, yeah, it's pretty young to have,
Mhm.
I think, to have kids. I was married at 24 and had my first by 26 and my second when I was 30. But yeah, just something clicked and I was like, okay, now I want one. I don't know why, but I do.
That's awesome. I love it. Well, is there anything I didn't ask you that I should have asked you?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. So then let me get your best advice. So what would your best advice be for someone who has never competed before but wants to? And then your best advice for somebody who is on their road to pro?
Oh, let's double back to the advice I would have given myself years back is like if you want to go down this road, just know that it can be consuming. It can consume a lot, time, energy, money. It can consume a lot. So make a plan, whether it's a tentative one or one that you sit down and actually kind of work out on pen and paper to find a way where if you dive into this, you can make it work. You know that you have the time, the energy, the finances, the anything needed to devote to it in a meaningful way, so that it does not impact the rest of your life or your family. That would be my number one tip or recommendation is just find a way before you get knee deep in it to make sure that it's something that you can sustain and sustain in a healthy manner. That would top priority. Like it can be a lot, so find a way to make sure you can do it without kind of impacting yourself negatively.
Love that.
And on the road to pro, just keep going. Um, there's no point in walking away after you've put in a ton of effort. If it is truly something that you want, just keep going. The journey is the dream. Obviously, at the end of it, you hope you get your pot of gold. But I would not take back a single one of these shows that I did this year. Every single one, even though every single one came with a huge loss, except for North Americans. There's not a single show that I would take back because it was a stepping stone. I learned a lot. I grew a lot. The process was amazing. The people I've met along the journey, some of my closest friends are a result from competing and meeting them backstage. And a lot of that wouldn't have happened if I gave up. So just, keep going.
Love it. So how can people follow your journey and connect with you?
Best way is on Instagram. It's just my name, Rachel Farganis. No fancy IFBB, anything, just my name. That's the best way
Nice.
to find
Awesome. Well, we'll put that in the show notes page. You guys, that's always on celestial.fit/podcast. If you're listening right away, it'll be at the top of that page. If you're listening in the future, just scroll down to the category section, which is alphabetized. Not only will you see how you can connect with us, but you're also going to see a full breakdown of this episode, timestamps and bulleted list of topics we covered, so you can go back, listen to your favorite parts, share it with your friends, your family, your teammates, let them know what resonated with you. And of course, please tag us after you listen or as you listen, let us know your thoughts. And it always goes a long way for the athletes when you reach out to them, and for me too. So thank you guys for listening. And Rachel, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Honor of a
You're
lifetime.
so
Way to go.
welcome. Oh, that's so amazing. Well, truly, I appreciate it. And I hope that you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world where you're listening to this episode. Just make it awesome.